Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. Every day on this channel, we teach you how to make money with digital assets. Smash that like, everybody, because we have a major show today. Bitcoin is dumping, but then 10 minutes ago, a little bit of reversal started. Is this going to be the reversal? Is this going to be the bounce? Looking at that chart right here on the 5 minutes, you can see this started about 15 minutes ago. Bitcoin making some major moves. When you zoom out, you can see, obviously, we had a huge crash yesterday. Bitcoin trying to find a bottom, but then puts in a lower low. But now the bulls are trying to say that was just the liquidity sweep. We are now heading to the upside. Once we zoom out, look at the daily chart here, you can see we're still playing around this 50-day moving average. This 50-day moving average, we have fallen below, but we've fallen below in the past. We've closed daily candles in the past, and we've still had an uptrend. All traders are going to be watching this. Like I said, major news. We got to talk about Avalanche and Toyota. We got to talk about Cardano. We got to talk about XRP. All your favorite altcoins, and I'm joined here today by TJ. TJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm channeling my Michael Saylor and just saying ignore the bears. Watching these markets run down to the downside. I saw somebody else say, is this the dip before the final dip before the dip? And it does feel that way sometimes in these corrections. I do still feel like 108 to 110 doesn't scare me at all. I'm looking at all this as an opportunity. We've got some interesting scenarios that we're going to lay out. Yeah, I'm loving Aave, love Aave every day. But we're going to talk about some other, exit strategy or potential bear market scenarios a little bit later in the show that we've been discussing here in the office. But not shaking one bit by any of this price action. Actually love it in a lot of ways. It's a healthy correction, which is what we need to start moving up again. I think we just got markets doing market stuff. And we did see some crazy stuff. The Spain Treasury spiked and some interesting stuff with the reverse repo overnight purchases happening there. So I think a lot of this is just lead up to Powell this on Friday, though.
Those said no, I'm actually getting wrecked, and I'm getting wrecked on stock market. The real pain is on Wall Street. Got wrecked on Palantir. Looking at Palantir with a pretty significant decline here. These are 4-hour candles. Remember, there's shortened trading days, so each day you can see little gaps there. Major decline here in the last week. Yeah, Palantir down about 23%, which is basically an altcoins movement in one day. The markets are looking kind of crazy today. You can see Bitcoin is down slightly, ETH down slightly, XRP is down. Solana was slightly in the green, but has now flashed a little bit red. Tron looking good. Remember, I told you yesterday Tron was going to do well. Do you remember me talking about Tron yesterday?
Absolutely.
How much Tron did I buy, you think?
$0.
Big old goose egg, everybody. And Chainlink, folks, tonight we're dropping a Chainlink video.
Chainlink can't
should have rushed that. I honestly should have just slammed that thing out yesterday, but it's going out tonight. We're going to break down why you should look out for Chainlink. I go over the next immediate levels where I think there's going to be some profit taken, and I talk about a $100 Chainlink. We look at some other predictions, and I come up with a slightly different answer. And there's even a moonshot target. There's a moonshot chart for Chainlink. I almost don't want to say it out loud, TJ. $600 Chainlink.
Nice. No, I think Chainlink, their revenue stuff is really just kicking in. I don't know if you cover this or if you're planning to cover this in the video, but there's this. They were doing these recapture transactions the other day through Chainlink and Aave together. And so Aave these are two of my favorite projects. If you guys don't know that already, I'm a big believer in both Chainlink and Aave and being leaders in DeFi. But Aave just made a new all-time high in weekly fees with 24 million. Chainlink SVR just made a new all-time high in value recaptured through a single liquidation of 125K. So basically what this does is Chainlink working with using the Chainlink product on Aave, they're saving Aave money, which gives them more to put back into their treasury. And we're just now seeing a lot of this revenue generating stuff kicking in for these projects. Chainlink is doing this for a lot of other big financial institutions as well. And so it saves them a ton of money. So people are happy to pay for this service. This is part of why I'm extremely bullish. Yeah, this guy here says Chainlink Reserve is going to be next level.
Yeah, we talk about it in the video.
Yeah, perfect. So I won't front run your whole video, but seeing some of those numbers coming in both for Aave and Chainlink, extremely bullish on those long term.
I'll say I will back up the truck once Chainlink dips below 20 again, if it does dip below. But speaking of dipping below, let's look at the major losers in the crypto market. Cardano, not looking too good unless you look at the 7-day. On the 7-day, it has performed very well. You can see it's beating everybody on this list here. Yeah, except for Monero. Monero, pretty significant decline. Pengu with a significant decline. And Say with a decline. But now Say is getting really, really close to the levels. I want to start loading up my Say. I think 25 cents is a good entry point. And I think there's an argument for under 30 cents is a fairly good entry point. And if you look here, this is hopefully not the potential downtrend that might be starting. We do have a lower high, but we're maintaining the higher lows. So right now, the bulls and the bears trying to choose a direction. Now let's look at the biggest gainers in the market. There isn't too much.
I was to say,
We do have Chainlink coming to a story in Aave, two of TJ's coins here, along with Athena. How is Athena doing?
Athena's
today?
been doing well.
Athena is pretty flat on this red day. Ooh, actually, well, for the year, green. So 24 hours, he has slightly in the green. So one of the few altcoins that hasn't been dumping. So
and that's
stay tuned. We're choosing the winners. For
yeah, that's another one that fits right in, works well with where DeFi is going. It's one of the major onboard. I think they had like $1 billion of increased TVL on stable coins lately. So it's been the fastest route for stable coins to get on chain recently. We didn't talk about it too much, but it is a pretty big deal. I think we mentioned it yesterday. Bullish, their IPO, they took $1 billion of their IPO proceeds in stable coins. Not dollars for that's a historic first time ever. And if we start to see that happening more and more, I think it's gonna get silly for these markets.
Ooh, and DAG. I know we got some DAG holders. DAG is up 7% today.
Oh wow.
So nice one on that. Shout out to the Constellation team there. But let's talk about this very cheap Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin crashing, and is 112 going to be the final bottom, or is it pointing to even lower levels here? So the option markets are signaling extreme fear, but historical patterns show potential for significant rebounds. On the extreme fear, if you look here, Bitcoin social sentiment. My God, this is from Colin Talks Crypto. I thought social sentiment had increased since last month, but it's even lower than before. That is as low or lower sentiment than bear market bottoms, except Bitcoin's in an all-time high range. Let that sink in. The sentiment for Bitcoin is as low or lower than the bear market bottom. However, Bitcoin is in an all-time high range. This is very significant. It means the market hasn't topped yet. There's been no euphoria to form a proper sentiment top. I do think every single Bitcoin cycle top is going to have a proper sentiment top. And if you look, Bitcoin, very, very fearful stage. We're nowhere near the bullish action that we've seen previous cycles when it comes to sentiment, at least.
Yeah, I agree. And this is another reason we've mentioned it. I believe on Monday, we were pulling up all those top bottom indicators, and like the fact that sentiment is so low while price is so high does lead me to believe, retail absolutely. I mean, it's clearly there. Retail isn't here. And I do think, that was the scenario we were talking about where we get a bullish Q4 and then a potential dramatic sell-off for 3 to 6 months in next year and then still go up again. I think we could see that play out, and that would almost be the max pain scenario for most people involved. And generally speaking, if you can find whatever max pain is going to be, that's kind of where you want to be aligned and prepared for. So, seeing those numbers so low, it actually is very encouraging for us for several reasons. One, it's a good indicator that we still have plenty of time left to run. Like if you see those red lines start to spike back up, you can see when it does, it goes quickly. And it's generally, look how late into, even if you look at where it in the middle of the chart where it spiked, that's probably like the red is at the top. What is that? 2017, 2018?
This is the 21 top. This is going to be April.
Oh, wow.
This is going to be November.
Okay. So the 21 top, you can see it really went parabolic after the price went, so that's what's going to happen is retail. I think once we get over 150, once we get up towards 200K, and the closer we get to 200K, the more interested, the retail money is going to be. You don't want to call it dumb money, but that's pretty much what it is. So max pain isn't always sideways. Actually, it's boring for us, but if you're in DeFi these days using liquidity pools, actually sideways is actually.
Well, to me, I have a different. Max pain isn't you buy and it goes lower. Max pain is you don't buy and it goes higher.
Absolutely,
it just feels worse. Like
or
indigestion.
Like this scenario here is basically, let's see if I have it here. We were talking about it today. Yeah, here it is. I think this would really throw a lot of people off, and I agree. It's basically what he says is, imagine if Bitcoin peaks in November, December in that 150, call it 180 range. So let's just say for max pain, it goes up to 180 in November. Then it spends 3 to 6 months grinding down to 100K, only to peak at the end of 2026 in the 2 to 300 range. So if we go to, say we go to 180 by November, and then we're just down only 180 all the way to 100K for 6 months, you're going to be hearing it's over, it's bear market time, sell everything, get out, wait for the bottom. And I think in this scenario, we'd first see 2 major tops occur. Now he compares it to 21 and 2013, which, okay, they did see a double top, but they weren't years apart. Which you pointed that out as well, DZ. You know, like one in May and then one a few months late. May and November is a little bit different than Q4 of 25 and Q4 of 26. But I could see this playing out with the debt cycles, with a lot of different things happening where people sell out of everything, to your point, where they're wanting to buy back lower, and then the market just absolutely runs away from them, and they end up sidelined, and most of the money is in the hands of the wealthiest people that really didn't even start getting into this market until 2021 or 2022 even, and then within 4 or 5 years they have complete control of the market. It would be remarkable to watch. But
if that does happen, would it be good to get out of altcoins? Yes, it would. It would be good, and then maybe roll those altcoin profits into Bitcoin.
That was exactly. So that's probably, I haven't locked this in yet, but most likely the plan I'm leaning towards right now is selling most, if not all, altcoins towards the end of this year, November, December, and most likely not sell any Bitcoin ever again for the rest of my life. And so then if this scenario that I just demonstrated does play out, it won't really bother me too much. I will have taken profits on altcoins. Alts will absolutely get decimated if Bitcoin goes from 180 to 100. I could potentially get some more back in there, or you just wait till I see Bitcoin on the rise again and then move into altcoins.
All right, one more question before we get into the article here. Do you worry Bitcoin's too expensive this time around for retail to ape in? Yes, somewhat, and that's why we talk about the quote-unquote moron trade, and how the moron trade is basically high value price for certain tokens, like, oh man, Bitcoin's 100K. Oh man, Ethereum's thousands of dollars. Oh, well, I've heard of XRP and it's only $3. Oh, I'll buy some XRP. And you're gonna see a lot of that. All right, let's get back into this article here. Bitcoin did fall below 13K for the first time in over 2 weeks. Surprising traders. We end up seeing over $100 million in longs get liquidated here. The decline followed the 124,000 all-time high on Thursday. Now it's raising questions whether or not the bull market is over. We don't think it is. The price correction accelerated after the reports that the U.S. SEC is investigating fraud and stock manipulation at Alt5 Sigma, a company that recently partnered with Trump family's World Liberty Financial in a $1.5 billion deal. Now, if you look at what actually happened here, SEC opened an investigation into John Isaac specifically over his role at Alt5 Sigma. This is a NASDAQ listed company. They did raise $1.5 billion from World Liberty Financial, acquiring 7.5% of the token supply. And then they're in turn going to get equity. Now, the regulator is probing whether John Isaac inflated earnings and orchestrated stock sales following a high return in the price there. Potential revenue misrepresentation or insider benefit. To their credit, Alt5 Sigma denies the investigation and notes, well, that guy was literally never even our president. So we're still waiting on the details of this investigation here. Now, the import tariffs and weakening confidence in the Fed is another reason where we're dumping. Another factor driving risk aversion was the new 50% import duties on 407 aluminum and steel containing products. These are going to be things such as car parts, plastics, specialty chemicals, prompting economists to raise concerns about supply chain disruptions and higher consumer prices, aka inflation might be a little bit higher and stickier than we want. This is another reason, the 30-day delta skew. This is essentially measuring how many people are betting on Bitcoin going up versus Bitcoin going down. A put is you put someone down, so a put is betting on it to go down. A call, well, you call someone up. So a call is betting on Bitcoin to go up. This is now surged to 12%. Meaning
that's a really good thing, by the way. I've used that several times. It helps me remember. Like it's easy for me to remember long and short, but put and call, I'd always get confused.
It's up there with please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Yeah, that's
Like
a good one.
it's a good mnemonic device there. All right, so this is where we're at. We're at 12%. This is bearish, so more people are betting on it going down. It's the put call ratio. It is typically between -6 and 6%. Now levels above 10% signal extreme fear, but are rarely sustained. The prior spike to this area, so right now we're at 12%. When we went to 13%, it was April 7th. That's when Bitcoin dropped below 75K for the first time in 5 months. Investors who embraced the risk, they saw a 40% gain over the next 30 days as Bitcoin would rally from 75K all the way to 104, 150 by May 8th. So last time we saw this delta skew was in April. Bitcoin found a bottom. Bitcoin would pump 40% in 1 month. And so just a little bit of hopium for the people out there. So we talked about all 5. Now, TJ, did you see the Harvard economist?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the Harvard economist? We're going to break this guy down in a second. He's about to get DZ'd.
Yeah, I quote tweeted it and I read it and I just like first thought I was like, this guy sounds
I didn't
miserable.
see your quote tweet.
I basically just said this guy seems like somebody who's never admits they're ever wrong about anything ever. That's what it like. That's the way it read to me. Like somebody who is just incapable of admitting that they were wrong or that they made a mistake. I don't know how you can. The mental gymnastics in that post was insane. To come out and basically be like, "Hey, I like." For reference for the audience, he's referencing the Harvard economist that came out 10 years ago or years ago and said that Bitcoin's more likely to go to $100 than $100,000. Obviously proven verifiably wrong in every way, shape, or form. And now he comes out to basically say, like, I wasn't wrong. The entire world was wrong.
Ken Stroganoff is what we're going to be calling him. Ken Stroganoff. It's up there with Arrested Development name. I think there's like salami or Parmesan, Gene Parmesan. So we got Ken Stroganoff here. That's not his real name. It's Kenneth S. Rogoff, but I like to call him old Ken Stroganoff. Ken Stroganoff, this is his post right here. Almost a decade ago, I was the Harvard economist that said Bitcoin more likely to be $100 than $100,000. Well, what did I miss? I was too optimistic about the U.S. coming to its senses about sensible cryptocurrency regulation. Why would policymakers want to facilitate tax evasion and illegal activities? Let's say that one more time. I was too optimistic about the government on whether or not they'd ban Bitcoin. So I thought for sure the government would ban Bitcoin. Oh, I didn't know they wouldn't ban Bitcoin. All right, well, one, you're way off there. Second, I didn't appreciate how Bitcoin would compete with fiat currencies, cash, to serve as the transactions medium of choice in the $20 trillion global underground economy. So this is him saying, oh, I didn't think criminals would use Bitcoin instead of cash. Okay, so he's basically just saying, oh, yeah, well, Bitcoin's just for criminals. You know, I didn't know the criminals would love it so much. Because the criminals love it so much, it puts a floor on the price, as he discussed in the length in his new book, Our Dollar, Your Problem.
Which is the truth is that's really what he's trying to do here is sell a new book, which is just crazy.
Well, what about Our Dollar, Your Problem? This is where it really goes off the rails. It talks about how the dollar has been the foundation of the world economy. Could its reign be coming to an end? So he knows the dollar's declining. He knows this fiat system might be coming to an end. If you look at Ray Dalio, you know, it seems fairly likely. And yet he still isn't a Bitcoiner. And third and finally, he didn't anticipate a situation where regulators, especially the regulator in chief, would be able to brazenly hold, he's talking about Trump, would be able to brazenly hold hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in cryptocurrencies, seemingly without consequence, given the blatant conflict of interest. Do we care if Donald Trump has a gold chain? So why do we care if he has one Bitcoin? It's, you know, essentially the same thing here. Now, let's, there's a couple things from this article talks about, I do want to share because, again, we got to DZ this guy. So Ken Stroganoff, you know, here's the article written about him. He's a former chief economist of the IMF. All starting to make a little bit more sense now. And also the author of the book that we just talked about there. But speaking of the criminal activity, illicit activity was tied to cryptocurrencies. Looked like it was around 50 billion in 2024, according to Chainalysis. But this is less than 1% of what is laundered using cash. So criminals still use cash as their main mode of illicit activities. Bitwise's chief investment officer responded to old Stroganoff here, failed to imagine that a decentralized project which drew power from the people and not centralized institutions could succeed at scale. When you think of centralized institutions, think Harvard. Also, in his book, he has another book here. Well, this person said, well, thanks to his other book, The Curse of Cash, his book was so terrible. It was actually one of the things that pushed me into Bitcoin. So people, interesting take there. And then this
That's
is where
funny.
it gets real ironic. Ironically, Harvard Management Company, which was responsible for managing their $50 billion, reported a $100 million investment in Bitcoin earlier this
I
month.
point out the same thing too, because I remember we covered that when their endowment fund, they bought IBIT. So they have a significant amount of exposure to Bitcoin. And he's coming out basically saying anybody who believes in Bitcoin is a moron, which is just, basically he's coming out saying, I'm the smartest person in the room. The other thing I found ironic is the most relevant he's been, especially on social media, is giving him bad Bitcoin takes. Like he's most famous for being the guy who said Bitcoin was going to fail. And now he's famous again for coming out and saying I was still right about that, or I should have been right about that. It wasn't me that was wrong. It was everybody else. It was society. It was the open markets were wrong. They just didn't take into account further restriction and control. And if the government had controlled people better, I would have been right. I mean, it's a crazy take, but you see it has millions of views, and then all of his other stuff is in the thousands. So it's pretty big cell phone, unless he considers it a press for his book, which I guess we're giving him press. So
yeah, we're giving him press. It's good for toilet paper. Here's a good take here. This is someone, Austin Campbell, quote tweeted him here. He's founder of Zero Knowledge Group. He teaches at NYU Stern, so maybe a little bit of an academic squabble here. Why? So he may also be the single worst situated person in the entire world to understand the value of Bitcoin. Why? He's in America. He's at Harvard. He's rich. He's part of the politically favored class. He lives in the country with the reserve currency and has easy access to that and banks. Our country has rule of law and things work mostly compared to many others. So why does he need Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis? Well, the reality is he doesn't. And so the value of these things to old Ken Stroganoff is essentially zero. And then finally here, this is the sort of incredibly privileged Western viewpoint on crypto that is just so tiresome. Nothing smart about this, nothing useful about this. It's a statement of, I got mine, so we're locking the door behind us. F the pores, when presented in such an arrogant fashion. Great takedown there. That's right, Stroganoff. You just got DZ'd. Now smash that like, everybody. Smash the like. Commit felonious assault.
There you go.
On that like button.
Chat's excited. Arrow's pumping. Chainlink's pumping. A lot of altcoins are seeing a little relief right now. So love to see it. Aave, Arrow.
Let's go to Arrow on a small time frame here. We're going to go to just the US dollar on Coinbase. That's the 4-hour chart. Looking at the 1 hour. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of a bounce on some of these small. Okay. It looks kind of good when you stretch that Y-axis there. Don't shake a stick at 5% pump in less than an hour. That's pretty significant. So good job, Arrow holders there. Thank you, Matthew. Is that Snyder? Is that Snyder? What is going on, Snyder? Matt Snyder, great person, great book, a real author out there. Shout out to Matthew Snyder. All right, let's get forward. Let's move forward here. So we got the Harvard guy. What an idiot. And we're just going to sum it up with this meme. Was I wrong about Bitcoin? No, the world is wrong. That's you, Stroganoff.
Exactly.
That's you.
Exactly.
Stroganoff in the corner alone, and that's how it's going to remain. All right, let's talk about corrections in a bull run. TJ, I know I went too far there.
You couldn't resist. With a name like that,
I'm proud of myself for waiting so long.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, that was a win for me. That was a W. W's in the chat. Let's get some W's in the chat. All right, remember, 20-30% corrections are normal in a bull run. They may not be easy to stomach, nor are they fun, but they are quite normal. We're still in a small part of a correction here. And if you look, do you remember how consistent the corrections were on this recent run? 22%, 21%, 21%, 22%, 23%. We do have a 29. That was the 74K crash. And right now, even if we drop 30%, we're still at a fairly strong level here. So
yeah,
some to just zoom out and realize, hey, 8%, 10% correction doesn't mean the bull market's over.
No, it's nothing. We used to do this stuff all the time, and it was kind of par for the course. Now we correct 5-10%. People act like the sky is falling, but 20 to 30% was nothing. So I do think, again, 108 to 110 is kind of what the TA has been saying. That seems reasonable. We could probably get there by Friday. It's almost perfectly in line with the scenario. Everybody's being nervous about pricing in a potential fade of the rate cut, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show with what Powell, everybody's expecting him in Jackson Hole on Friday. He's going to be talking, and it seems like the market is pricing in him to be at least somewhat hawkish, or, act like he may or may not cut rates in September. I think a lot of the run up we saw earlier in this month was pricing that in. There was really high odds that we were getting a rate cut. Now some of these inflation numbers coming in a little hot. I think they're going to potentially try to say, oh, maybe we won't cut. And if he's indecisive at all, I think we continue to see some pain until we get there.
So. All right, we got someone. I sold my sweep for Arrow. Good move or not? To me, that is a very tough one to gauge. I think they're both going to have a good pump. To me, it's like comparing Chainlink to Aave. I'm not sure what's going to have the better returns, what's going to have the better multiple. I think they're both going to do pretty good. ADA is the ultimate idiot trade, talking about the cheap token prices, because it's less than $1. It can only go up. LOL. I guess I'll get some. So I would say there's maybe something to that. Bitcoin's 100K, ETH is thousands, XRP, it's like $3-4, and then you see one that's like 95 cents. Like, yeah, maybe something to that. Now let me stop talking about ADA. They're going to get mad at me. All right, let's talk about Celsius though. Celsius starts its third creditor payout. $220 million is going out on the 20th. Via PayPal, Coinbase, Venmo, and Hyperwallet. And it looks like they're going to get about 2/3 to about 85% of their holdings here. And so keep an eye out on this. Is now 65% of the claims have been paid. And if you're not aware, they are a crypto lender hit hard by the 22 market crash. And they've now begun their phase of these $220 million worth of payments. They've confirmed, like we said, Coinbase, PayPal, Venmo, Hyperwallet are going to be distributed here. So some of this, I try to do the deep dive. Is this going to be cash? Is it going to be Bitcoin? It's all over the place. Some of it was like weird stock.
Yeah, Ionic shares stock is what they're talking about.
Stocks and stable, and it's all over the place.
I will be very careful with all this stuff because there's a lot of fake Celsius distribution emails and stuff that go out because they did experience several data breaches, both Coinbase and Celsius. So they do have your information. There's a lot of fake emails, so don't click any links. If they say, oh, log into this portal and give us this, you don't need to do that, generally speaking. I looked into this as well. I do believe this is legitimate. And if so, you don't have to do anything. You just wait till you get another email that will tell you.
Yeah, PayPal will be reaching out,
and
or Coinbase.
Well, you're going to get an email from the litigator most likely that says the date of the distribution should be this. And this, I believe they're going through the same method that they did in the past, which should be a Coinbase account or a PayPal account. But y'all gonna have an OG get together when y'all move. Maybe we'll do some kind of meetup or something. But the new studio is gonna be a little bit more off the radar. So might have to. We'll do something, but not sure what yet. But shout out to you, Manwalk. Appreciate you. Always love to see you in the chat.
OG for sure.
But yeah, I do think that's a real distribution. Just be careful out there.
All right, is Josh covering the Powell stuff? He's still, he was a long travel day, so we'll I don't know, maybe find out in the Discord. We'll share in a little bit. Josh is traveling, everybody. All right, let's talk about.
And somebody was asking, not on the morning show, he has been doing afternoon streams. So generally speaking, our new kind of setup is DZ and I in the morning, Drew in the afternoon, or Drew at like lunchtime, and then Josh in the afternoons, and then we're probably going to have Kelly doing some interviews and stuff
Banana
like that
Republic.
too, so.
Why move?
We're moving out just to different location for a lot of different reasons. We've been here for a little while. It's more space than we need, so just trying to get into a little bit more comfortable place and a little bit. We just don't need all the space that we have. Basically,
it's TJ's tool shed. He just wants it close to his house, folks. That's really what it is. It's not. It's the pool house. Let's talk about strategy, everybody. Strategy is hitting a 4-month low as Saylor changes the tack on the MicroStrategy issuance. What is this change that he's doing when it comes to issuing stock? It's a little bit complicated. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but Saylor is indicating that they're going to lower restrictions on issuing more shares. This lowering restrictions is going to make it a little bit easier for them to issue debt. And they said they were not going to issue these shares unless they are below 2.5 times its net asset value, the MNAV. So let's back up a little bit. What is he saying? They would not issue debt unless they're 2.5x the MNAV. Well, MNAV is just going to be the ratio of the value of the company to its Bitcoin native asset value here. So MNAV above 1, remember they want 2.5, means the stock trades at a premium to the value of their Bitcoin holdings. MNAV below 1 suggests a discount. So MNAV below 1 of MNAV of 0.9 would be we have $100 of Bitcoin, but our share price is only $90. That would give you a negative MNAV. 2.5 means, well, the share is trading for $250 for every $100 worth of Bitcoin. When you do a little bit of research, some of this, the ratios are, I definitely would rather buy Bitcoin, especially now that IBIT ETFs are widely available. Strategy, its debt has now gone up to $8.2 billion. They own $73 billion worth of Bitcoin, but their market cap is $95 billion. So you could kind of say the debt is reducing this exposure. So they have a value of $75 billion. Technically, or let me see. Yeah, the 75 minus the 8. So basically, essentially trading at a premium here. What are your thoughts on strategy? Does this make you want to sell your strategy stock if you had some?
So the big thing on this that everybody was freaking out about was more the guide. It's not as much what they do because there's different markets and different reasons for that things will trade at a premium to their asset value. The revenue that they generate and all these sorts of things. But the real issue that everybody was feeling yesterday was MicroStrategy had come out with their guidelines of what they were planning to do with different type of stock at certain
MNAV levels.
MNAV levels. Like they basically said, we're never going to sell below 2.5 unless we have to, they had two reasons, like to set aside debt obligations or for one other thing. And then they came back. This was like 2 weeks ago. They came out and put this guidance out there, and they were trying to give guidance for other investors of like what they should do with their stock. Well, then yesterday they came out and tweeted like, "Oh, we've updated it," and they added a third line in there that basically said, "We're not going to do it unless we deem it to be strategically advantageous for the company." Like, oh, we're on this dip right now. We want to buy it, so we might sell some because we think this is a good time to buy the dip. I think is more or less what they were trying to say. But the market and the investors, a lot of the major whales in MicroStrategy did not like that, the kind of double talk, so to speak. And that was what everybody was in uproar about. Now, I generally do think, hey, you can just buy Bitcoin. Like that is the probably simplest way to have exposure to Bitcoin, in my opinion. That's what I've been doing for a long time. I like to custody my own stuff. I also have, concerns about, MicroStrategy and them holding all the Bitcoin, and what if there's regulatory or legal changes in the future? How does that impact all of that Bitcoin that they're holding and the market share? Now, can they get more Bitcoin per share potentially than I can? Yeah, potentially. And so I'm not against it completely. I do think I saw one of those what's those underwater memes, where you've got the person holding the kid, and it's like early investors, MicroStrategy early investors crushing it. MicroStrategy new investors or recent investors barely keeping their head above waters. Anybody new, they're just completely drowning.
Yeah, there's a skeleton in the wheelchair on the bottom of the pool.
Yeah, I do think the market's still trying to decide how to price this. I think that it could potentially come back down. I think that you're going to see MicroStrategy kind of work at a premium to Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin ran up, MicroStrategy had its crazy up, the uptrend that was insane, and it's going to probably get added to the S&P 500 as a result. But when Bitcoin's in a downturn, the stock is going to correct probably pretty substantially. So for me, I'm kind of waiting for it to find its bottom, so to speak. Like if I was going to load up heavy on MicroStrategy, I'm not doing it right here. I'm kind of waiting probably until mid 26 to see if we get into a bear market and what might happen. And I don't have any doubt that it's a Ponzi or that it's going to completely collapse. I think there's a little bit of a lack of faith. I do think, and that was the main guy to follow, I would say, on a lot of this stuff is Josh Mandel. We pulled
Josh
him
Mandel's
up
great.
Josh Man, so to speak. He's been kind of one of the loudest Bitcoin bulls. I mean, MicroStrategy bulls, and he was breaking down some of this stuff yesterday. I don't think people will run for the hills. I still think it's a quality stock. If you're holding it for 10 to 15 to 20 years, I think you're going to be happy. But I still just like to hold Bitcoin for the most part.
Yeah. Now let's talk about a reason why maybe you shouldn't like Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin too decentralized? That seems to be the criticism coming around. Everybody's talking about this 51% hash rate. So the first time in years, two mining pools control over 50% of Bitcoin's hash rate. Bitcoin's hash rate means all the computers that are turned on trying to guess the lotto number. You guess the lotto number correctly, you win the Bitcoin block. It happens every 10 minutes. So now they have 51% of the people guessing, trying to win that Bitcoin block. 51% attack that everyone feared isn't just a theory anymore. What this means and why you should care. This is from Alt Crypto Gems. I haven't seen him too much. I have seen him before. This follow number feels a little suspicious given the metrics, but maybe not. What is a 51% attack? One group controls more than the half of the mining power. They can reorganize blocks, double spend their own coins, temporarily block some transactions. They cannot steal your Bitcoin, change the supply cap, or rewrite the years of history of the blockchain there. And so what are the two mining pools? It is Foundry USA, 33.5%, and Amp Pool with their 18%. You add this up, we now have a 51% cluster amongst these two mining pools. Now, pools are not miners. They're just coordinated platforms. The hash power belongs to the thousands of independent miners within these coordinated platforms, and miners can leave that pool in minutes if something looks sus. So 52% by two pools does not mean 52% controlled by one attacker. So a little nuance there. I'm not too worried about the two pools controlling 51% because I guess of this main nuance here. It is just a bunch of independent people and they could leave whenever.
Yeah, and Steve says U.S. versus China, two people that would never collude to take this over. And then Andreas Antonopoulos said it pretty well back in the day. Like even if you were to pull all that off and you could get all that collusion and you work together and you do all this stuff in secret, and let's say you do successfully 51% attack, you gain control for one block, people fork over, they move to the new chain, and you won for one block. You spent billions of dollars for one block, and now everybody just moves on. And so that's kind of the beauty of the design, is it's very resilient. And this is not the first time somebody's talked about a 51% attack on Bitcoin or many other types of attack on Bitcoin. And it's been the most resilient network from a security standpoint of all time. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's talk about inflation here. This is from Caleb Franz, and we're going to look at the newest the newest prediction market for the September rate cut. What is Polymarket having to say here? This is from Caleb. Inflation, it is not cooling. On the contrary, it's actually reaccelerating. I don't care what variable you look at. You could take your pick, whether it's headline, core CPI, median CPI, trim mean CPI inflation. They are higher today than they were in March and April 2025. This is not what Powell wants. And if you look, you can see a little bit of curvature on these inflation metrics here, maybe signaling that we are going to have a little bit of higher inflation. And it does look like, some other analysts are looking at some of these same indicators. And now we've seen a slight diminishment in the odds that we're going to get a rate cut in September. It looks like for the rate cut, we had this 50. That's going to be 8. We'll just do no change. 87% odds we were going to get a cut. That was a week ago. 87%. Now, you can see it right here. Now it is down to 72%. So we're getting a little bit of diminishment here. We're getting about a 10% difference here. Actually, no change is now 28%. So we went from 1-7 to 1-4 odds, slightly higher actually, that we're not going to get a rate cut in September. I think altcoins is going to be a bloodbath if we don't get this rate cut. But I would say that definitely increases the odds we get a rate cut October 29th.
Yep.
And maybe even a 50-point cut.
I agree. And I think I said this a little bit towards the top of the show, but I think the price action we saw early in the month was the market pricing in a cut, saying like, we're basically certain we're going to be getting a cut.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody was excited. Cuts coming in September. We saw prices run up. Now it's getting a little shaky. The PPI numbers come out. And, bottom line is they're printing tons of money still. There is inflation. They can do mental gymnastics all they want, but the inflation's bad and the job market's bad. So they're going to, like, Powell again is in a tough spot. We didn't even really look at it. They're definitely tightening. They're not doing reverse repo bids, which again shows tightening and, constricting on the market. Somebody in our Discord posted this. I was going to share, and I think it's a pretty good take. Basically, market selling off is preparing for a hawkish Jackson Hole. The market thinks rate cuts are no longer guaranteed for September. If Powell speaks Friday, if he hints at all at no rate cut, market's going to front run that and sell it off dramatically. If he leans towards rate cuts, then we'll probably go right back to pumping again. If we don't get rate cuts in September, it's going to be a brutal 4 to 6 weeks until we know for sure in October. And that's basically what I think playing out. We'll know a lot after Friday. It does seem like the markets are front running or pricing in a hawkish tone at the very least. And if we get a hawkish tone and we don't get cuts in September, I agree. That's when some of those 88K kind of numbers we talked about, or under 100K numbers that we talked about, become plausible or likely. I still think 108 to 110 is a safe zone for now. But if we get to September, don't get rate cuts, that breaks down, then, we've got some time to stack. Like this guy says, no cuts, more time to stack. I do feel that way, but the markets definitely, if you're all in assets, you want to see those assets pump. So
interesting name on that viewer there. DZ's Chrysler 300 is now TJ. Is this a good time to swap ETH for small cap coins, Plume, Morpho, Ondo, Arrow? Well, it is a high risk time. I think Steve-O kind of also answered that. It is risky. If ETH bounces from here, and let's say Bitcoin does find its footing, remains flat or slightly moves to the upside, alts probably going to explode. Those ETH alts are probably going to explode. But if ETH loses a few levels, which we're going to cover in about next couple minutes, then those alts are going to lose more. So if ETH falls an additional 10%, those coins you mentioned are going to fall 20, 30%.
Yep.
So I would do a DCA strategy if it was me personally.
And I got to run, but I'll leave.
I got it from here. I got it from here. All right. We're going to talk about Fed's Bowman's urging loosening crypto investment ban for staff to boost understanding. There's a small but pretty distinct change here. Remember what we were talking about, that Harvard economist? I can't believe the president owns Bitcoin. Clear manipulation, clear fraud. Well, I do think that federal employees should be able to hold a little Bitcoin. I know, call me a radical, call me orange-pilled, call me whatever you want. But if you can hold gold, you can hold an S&P 500 mutual fund. If you can hold even a CD or Japanese bonds, you should be able to hold some Bitcoin. So this was at that same Wyoming summit that we're talking about Jerome Powell's going to be at, speaking Friday. Bowman said that the Fed should consider permitting employees to hold small amounts of digital assets. Now, I don't know why she put a distinction on small. To me, you either let someone hold some Bitcoin or you don't let someone hold some Bitcoin. So I don't think they're going to try to put a limit on someone, especially when the president has around $1 billion worth of crypto. I don't think they're going to say, oh, if you have more than one Bitcoin, you got to sell the rest of your Bitcoin. I do think this is going to signal maybe some of these federal employees can start holding cryptocurrencies, because if we can hold crypto, they should be able to hold crypto as well. And this isn't affecting everybody. This is going to be Federal Reserve employees. She's the Federal Reserve Vice Chair for Supervision, Michelle Bowman. That's her right there. All right, let's talk about some of these ETFs. Well, what the heck is Wall Street doing? They're slipping down like this lady is right here. Interesting drawing there, Cointelegraph. But spot Bitcoin ETFs saw $500 million in outflows yesterday. Very significant amount, more than 4x what we saw on Monday, according to the Far Side Investors data. They also do a very funny daily comic. Now, Ether ETFs also had major losses. Outflows doubled from 200 million to 422 million there. So we're seeing major outflows, signaling an end to the nice bullish streak that we've seen. But of course, this might flip into the reverse, because as we talked about the front of the show, this top of the show, fear and greed index is 100% signaling an impending reversal. It doesn't stay in fear too long, just like it doesn't stay in greed too long. This is a fairly large macro indicator that you can trade off of. I guess it's medium. It's not micro, it's not macros, maybe somewhere in the middle. Now, an ETH trader also got wiped. Take profits, folks. If you're up on some of these coins, feel free to take profits. This guy started with $125,000 in ETH. He bet on ETH going higher. This started it was months ago, I want to say. He's now lost it all in about 48 hours. Okay, so there's a lot of unpredictability here. So like I said, he had 125K in there, went up to 43 million. Now, the way I did some research into this yesterday, actually, he was almost liquidated. I think he has now lost everything. He put in 125. When that bet was in the green, in the profit, he had unrealized profits. So then he was able to basically, some financial massaging. You're able to increase your leverage position. Then ETH kept going up. So he kept increasing his leverage position. So then it made moves to the downside or the upside a little bit more volatile, gave him a little bit more profit or gave him a little bit more loss. Well, he did it and he did it and he did it. And then all of a sudden, he is now in the negative there. So he could have just had every time he was doing this, he's raising his entry point. Sometimes it's good to just keep that early entry point. You don't have that $43 million, but then if there's a small correction, you don't get wiped out. You're still in the green. Now, the market also hit some other big traders. James Wynn, sometimes known as James Loss, his position was also partially liquidated. He was left with only $300K. I think it was a $10 million position maybe at one point. So major drops from the levers traders. So just be careful out there. Someone said he's a gambling tard. Maybe, folks, you gotta take those profits. We like to trade for fun. We like to trade for as a hobby, and we like to trade just to feel something. But we also take profits. Now let's talk about Luigi, not the guy in the video. Okay, there's a different Luigi. Chief Strategy Officer at Ava Labs. Ava Labs built Avalanche. Also, he's from Citibank. This is pretty major. This is significant news for Avalanche, the largest automaker in the world. It's not true. By market cap, I have to look into that. Tesla does have a larger market cap than Toyota, but maybe Toyota has more vehicles produced annually than Tesla. But either way, a top 2 automaker just released a detailed white paper about building mobility orchestration network on Avalanche. I'll leave it to you to read, but it cites native interoperability, L1s, and fast finality as the premise here. So what exactly is this? This is not so much you can see 2 different ways we're going to see crypto with vehicles. I think the primary way that we're going to see it is, I think it's going to be cars talking to each other. Maybe this is 20 years from now, maybe this is 30 years from now, but there's going to be a system for fully self-driving vehicles to pay each other for basically get higher in the queue. So you're going down and you drive in a 50-minute commute, but maybe if you pay $5-10 into the system, to the grid, you can turn that 50-minute commute into a 35-minute commute. But say maybe you're on that same 50-minute commute and you want to watch a podcast for an hour. So you'll say, you know what? I will let the cars that want to pass me, because they're in a rush, they can pass me. And every time they do that, I get like 20 cents in Avalanche. But maybe 1,000 cars pass you. Maybe it's only 2 cents. Maybe it's a fraction of a penny. But I do think there's going to be a world in which vehicles speak to each other to pass each other with little microtransactions. And then this will in turn be very, very, it'll just be great buying pressure. It'll be great for the blockchain. It looks like Avalanche is trying to do that. Well, guess what? That's not what this is. This is basically supply chain logistics here. This is going to be for their infrastructure providers and the end users. And it's going to be a shared trust and verification system there. So we're not going to see cars paying each other, but this is going to be, still good for vehicle usage, insurance claims, carbon credits, smart contracts, ride sharing, EV charging, all types of things like that. So it's more of a infrastructure for mobility rather than, cars paying, car A pays car B to pass them and get to work 30 seconds sooner. I do think that is going to be a major industry, though. We don't know how big that industry is going to be, or even if that industry exists. I don't even know if I heard smart people talk about it. It's just what I see in my mind 20 years from now. I think that's how it's going to work. And watch it. Oh, God, I just hated the prediction I just came up with. It's going to be Tesla and it's going to be Doge. You're going to have to pay a Doge every time you pass somebody. Imagine that world. Now that's going to pump the heck out of Doge, everybody. So I'm saying ADA is moving. Well, it better move because it was the biggest loser in 24 hours of what it felt like there. No's already doing that. H-bar with Hyundai. I think really it's going to come down to an interoperability protocol. And so I don't know if H-bar system will be compatible with Avalanche's system or if that'll be compatible with maybe what Tesla is going to be trying to build. There will be one winner, and it's just we're going to have to try to see who that's going to be and make some predictions and then make some bets there. Link is going to move hard. Maybe Link's the infrastructure behind the whole thing, though. Who knows there? Let's see. Someone's talking about bathroom issues. Don't get too lost in the weeds for those social arguments that are created and manufactured to divide. What we really need to be focused on is building wealth, and we need to focus on Chainlink as part of that strategy. Leading DeFi protocol. Chainlink, another partnership. No surprise here. The latest, don't say victim. The latest partner is going to be Pendle. Pendle's going to be using the Chainlink data standard on their ARB and base models here to power newly launched futures platform Boros. Boros also red and white Magic the Gathering decks. Boros is leveraging Chainlink's battle-tested infrastructure to provide access to funding rates on chain. So again, this Oracle is going to be sharing a lot of data. Tonight, we're putting out a Chainlink video. I have a price prediction. I have a totally insane moonshot price prediction that someone pointed out. It's using the symmetrical triangle that on a monthly chart. So you can kind of see where that's going to go. That's a totally insane price target. And then I talk about $100 price target, and then I give my price target. And I talk about the immediate levels you need to be paying attention to, because there's something that I notice. And maybe I'll tease it here. I'm just going to tease it for you guys. I think I have it on the proper link. I think I have it on this chart here. These purple lines. Oh, yeah, we can see them. These purple lines. Okay, I'm on the 5 minute. I'm like, what's going on? These purple lines are significant. You got to watch the video to see why. And it's not just this. It's not just this. Maybe there's some levels over there. So watch the video. You'll see what I'm talking about there. Say was way down, but all the charts said every Say move in the last 3 weeks was spot on by this. Is a TD sequential. It's basically a buy sell indicator. Sometimes it's accurate. Sometimes it's not accurate. Sometimes these things get counter traded, because they'll see, like bots will see, like, oh, TD sequential saying buy. So like, we see some buy orders and we dump it. So sometimes there's counter signals here, but it does not look like the counter traders have found the TD sequential on Say. Seems like every time the signal has been, triggering, it has been accurate for the last 3 weeks. Right now, the signal is selling or yelling buy. So maybe something to pay attention to. As Say is on decline, maybe Say's on sale here. Let's look at Say. Say was 29 cents early this morning, or about an hour ago. And now it is, see, could have had that small gain. Could have had that small, whoa, that was more than a small gain. Okay, are things pumping? Okay, Arrow is moving. Someone said Cardano is moving. Is Cardano moving? Cardano is, this is very major, everybody. We are now above this parallel range. A breakdown in this parallel range potentially points at a 50-cent Cardano. Okay, very, very bearish, scary area. And reclaiming this is going to be very, very important. We got to get the heck out of this thing. If we fall and we touch the bottom of this, actually, I'm sorry. I was trying to be bullish. Just hitting the middle range takes us to 56 cents. If we break down completely, 27-cent Cardano, let's say it happens, it could be 25-cent Cardano. So this is a very important range. And you can see this range was established all the way back in 2024. This is November Trump pump. We found the top of the range, found the bottom of the range, hit the top here, hit the top here. So we definitely need to flip this into support. So Cardano, very, very do or die moment here. Let's look at ETH. Not WETH, ETH. ETH is also looking good. Let's go to the daily. Yeah, we have these moving averages firmly below. Bitcoin's 50-day moving average, though, still below. We've still got a ways to go before we can reclaim that. That's going to be right there at $115,000. We're right now pretty close, about $800 away. And we'll look at one more. We'll look at Solana. I know we got the salamis in the chat here. Solana bouncing off this trend line that I drew. I don't know when. I think we drew it yesterday. Looks like we found a little bit of a bottom here. Is this on a log? Okay, this is my log line. This log line looks like it's maybe doing pretty good here. So Solana also doing well. Came close to that 50-day moving average and said, we're going to be bullish here. So that's some of the altcoins here. Let's look at just another major mover, or maybe spam your altcoin that you want me to look at, and we'll look at it towards the end here. Ray, Solana, ADA, Zora, Cardano, 26-cent Cardano is the bear market. Hey, that's another reason for it to go there. Let's look. All right, so we want to hit refresh. Biggest gainer for the past hour. ARB, Pengu, and Link. And Say, God dang it. Should have longed it. Should have longed it. I'm like, all right, guys, look at these traders who got wrecked. And I'm like, I should have traded that. I saw it. But you know what? I wouldn't have been like those dorks. I would have took profit. Probably. I would have took profit. All right, now looks like maybe the market making dump is over. Binance was dumping a lot of Ethereum to liquidate the longs. So that should take us to, let's actually look at the liquidations here. Are we hitting some of these very important levels on the liquidation heat map? I know they can be skewed. I know, but we still want to look. Okay. All right, did clear that bottom. Let's look at ETH actually. That's what we were talking about. Binance, ETH shorts. Yeah, that cleared up a lot down there. Cleared up a lot right there. And we'll do one more. We'll look at BitGet. Little bit of a cluster here around 4,100. So still a little scary levels down below. But now we want these shorts to get liquidated, and then that'll be more and more fuel to the upside. We do have these treasury asset companies here, these Bitmine now buying 50,000 worth, 200 million. These companies are buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth. Digital asset treasury companies, or the DATs, I like to call them the DATs. But now let's talk about XRP. Is there some XRP holders in the chat? I want to see if you hold some XRP. Don't be afraid of the XRP fudsters making fun of you. Just don't type in XRP is going to $10,000 and you'll be fine. We'll accept $5. We'll even accept $10. But once you start talking about XRP to 100, 500, 10,000, that's when they're going to come for you, folks. That's when they're going to come for you. Yeah, see XRP. Oh yeah, we know Matt likes it. How about Jake Claver's assessment? Bitcoin will never go past 75K. He said that in 2024. Jake Claver, I will never forget. Although I do like Jake, he's a good guy. CNBC exciting the XRP army with a recent report about Ripple. I want to share this. This is just showing that the normies are going to want to start buying some XRP. We talked about the quote unquote idiot trade. I'm not saying you're an idiot if you buy XRP. I'm saying unit bias will be much more important for people than market caps. Those people, maybe you can call them an idiot. I think that's maybe they're just a little ignorant. They just need some more knowledge and they can get to where we're at. You know, they just need a little help. They just need a little bit of a hand up. And so now that we're looking at this, CNBC covering XRP makes it more likely we're going to see these normies flock into crypto. And as I said at the top of the show, oh God, Bitcoin's 100K, ETH is thousands, but XRP is only $4, $5. Yeah, I'll buy a load of those for $5. And so they're emphasizing Ripple's role in providing Gemini with a credit line, you know, just really any kind of talking about XRP. They're also talking about Gemini's IPO. So that's how it got brought up there. But they point out that Ripple has extended a revolving credit line to Gemini as providing support as they prepare for their IPO. And part of this credit line paid out in their stablecoin. So XRP integrating pretty heavily with Gemini, which is funny because it was founded by the Winklevoss, who were, you know, famously Bitcoiners there. So signaling normies getting ready. They're getting ready to maybe get some Ripple exposure there. Someone's saying, I hope ICP moves. ICP, maybe the canister concept isn't taking off, or retail just says canisters aren't going to take off. I believe I was smoking that hopium. Oh, canister technology. The canisters. Oh, they're siloed. These canisters. No one cares about the canisters. It reminds me of ISO 222. It's like, yeah, maybe some people care, but when it comes to the token price, do people care? And they don't. And then really that's what matters there. You're the epic one there. XRP to 589. I will give it to you there. XRP to $65,000. Trash. Bow Towers. I will see you in Tilted Towers. And I got a gold loadout, man. I'm coming for you there. We're all rich in January 2032. Oh no, it's going to be 2026. We know it, folks. All right, XRP's in 10,000. Come on now. I don't have and never will have XRP. Well, you know what? You could have got some under $1 and had a huge gain. So, you know, don't hate it. Don't date it, but don't be afraid to trade it. That's what I say. You know, some of your analogy I could see would make newbies sellish. You know, some of your analogy I could see would make newbies sellish. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm kind of maybe picking up what you're saying, but I'm not sure. Yeah, all coins are pumping. Things are starting to pump, folks. Excuse why XRP is doing better. All right. ADA hits $1 means pump to $1.80. $1.30 and $1.25. You know, that is kind of an important level. We're going to be watching that, but $1.60 is also important for Cardano. Still hold my $1.93 average price. Well, don't raise that price. Don't raise that average price. We only want to see you lower that average price. And DZ's getting smarter every day. Well, how about this? Solana went down. No, there you go, folks. All right, smash that like button, everybody. I got Solana. I like Solana. Smash the like button. We're going to be back tonight. Chainlink video, price prediction, next levels. So it's going to be some TA. It's good. I hit the broad points. Like, all right, let's. They got a reserve. They got this. They got some compliance. Swift. I kind of cover a little bit of that, but then we talk about the price action. Then we go to the charts. If you want to see that video tonight, turn on the notifications. Make sure you're following this channel. And it really does help us out when you smash the like button. Or if you're on X, hit that repost. Or if you're on Rumble, hit the thumbs up there. Shout out to Rumble. Shout out to X. I'm about to have a new coffee mug from my favorite channel on Rumble, that is. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. That's all I got for today, man. I'm going to go do some research. DZ out.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.